Good tidings, Earthlings. It is League Unlocked. My name's Eric. That is Mark here with you guys for another episode. And we got a little bit of, it's not quite off-season news, but it's world news. And usually that's a big positive. We got some big change. Oh, so-and-so's going to be involved with it. But unfortunately, it's not good changes that are coming that we've seen.
Yeah, when I got the news that, look, there's going to be some changes to Worlds, I thought, oh, finally they've been
Double
listening.
elimination? Okay.
Maybe something like that. They've been maybe on the lower end. They've been listening to us and said, okay, we'll let Yone into the World's champion pool. I'm like, okay, I can live with that. Unfortunately, the news is that the VCS will not be participating in Worlds this year due to COVID-related issues, and that one's a big, even considering a lot of people might go, okay, just the VCS. But come on, guys, the VCS, think about all the memories and moments that we've had in any type of region missing out on Worlds. It's a really unfortunate side.
And you feel extra bad for the VCS because it has a massive following. It's right up there with Brazil when you're talking outside of the major regions. They have millions of subscribers on YouTube. We know how passionate this fan base is to get behind their teams, whether it's MSI, whether it's the World Championship. And yeah, this is like missing MSI is one thing, but I mean, everyone missed MSI, so you didn't really have FOMO because everyone was missing it. But this, you still have all these other squads going, and for a team like Team Flash, who, by the way, just clinched their spot at Worlds last week, they also won in spring and could have gone to MSI. So these poor guys missed MSI and Worlds this year. That sucks.
Right. They're not getting to go. And think back to previous years. You're thinking back on some of these memories, and you're looking for some impact. Man, the VCS has maybe had more of an impact in what's been going on at Worlds in the last couple of years than North America or even the LCK. At some points, you can even make that type of contribution, that argument, given what you've seen from the teams like the Fongvu Buffalo, like you've seen from the Gigabyte Marines. Man, not getting to see these type of teams, that is certainly a loss for everybody.
Yeah, and obviously it's a tough situation for Riot. Like, how do you, okay, all of a sudden you're down 2 teams heading into this World Championship, so what do you want to do? People are saying, ooh, just add another LCS and LCK squad. Great. T1 doesn't have to worry about anything. They should be fine. And Cloud9's right in. Perfect. Easy solution, right, Mark?
No, I'm not buying that one either. I look at this one and you're talking about and adding it in, and we already were adding in these extra spots for the LPL and the LEC, and that was supposed to be obviously not having MSI, but as well, a little extra carrot on the stick, a little bit of a reward for how well and how competitive you had been in previous World Championships. And you looked at the results for North America and for the LCK. They're nowhere near the same. You cannot be rewarding these regions the same way. And I know, even with this being the COVID year for the Worlds and MSI not happening, and now you got the VCS not going, opening up these slots, and oh boy, Cloud9, wouldn't it be great to see them go? You just can't be doing that. They don't deserve it, opening up a spot like that.
Well, it's not fair to the teams that legitimately qualified. It's almost giving them a free pass, even though they didn't do what they were supposed to do. So I'm glad that Riot didn't end up doing that. But now it changes the tournament because you just straight up have 2 less teams. The biggest implication are obviously going to be the play-in stage, which is the main changes. Usually the first seed of the VCS would get right into the play-in to the main stage, and the second seed would have to go through play-ins. But now, so we're 24 teams down to 22, and play-ins used to be 4 groups of 3. They play each other, they go blah, blah, blah. Top 2 advance, and they play best of 5s. Now this year, it's just going to be 2 groups, 5 teams on each side, and it's a single round robin because they don't have time to play a double round robin for play-ins. Whoever finishes first, automatically through to the main stage. Don't have to play a best of. Whoever finishes last, see you later. You're gone. Not at the event. You're done. And then you have the 3rd and 4th teams will play a best of 5. Winner of that will advance to play the 2nd seed, and they'll play a best of 5. And whoever wins that will then advance. So you're still getting 4 teams out of the group stage. It's just a lot more convoluted now.
Yeah, and when you're looking at this type of group stage and you're thinking from the North America perspective, can get a lot scarier here. Now you're talking about, going down from the amount of groups that you had down to these 2 groups of 5 and the way it is, where you got to get that top spot to get your way out, and otherwise you're fighting in these best of 5s and fighting in these best of 5s against possibly the 4th seed from the LPL and the LEC. I don't think that that's the type of fate that you want to be tempting as a North American team at Worlds. Not until the group stage. That's gotta. North America's goals is getting by play-in stage, and then whatever happens group stage, we can work from there. Other regions, your goals might be a little bit higher.
Well, it's great now because TSM hasn't been to Worlds in so many years. Usually, oh my God, 3-3, 1 game away again. Hey, you're hoping for that this year. If they get to a tiebreaker to get out of groups, well, that's a successful year.
Hey, there we go.
But the other
Making
big
some
change
progress
from the play-ins is the 3rd seed from the LCK. They needed to have an even amount of teams, so the LCK is just not in play-ins. Riot decided that the most deserving seed to skip this whole event based on previous accomplishments at Worlds was Korea, so no 3rd seed there, which absolutely makes sense. You would complain if it was any other squad, but I'm a little disappointed because I want to see T1, I want to see Genji, whoever ends up going. It's so fun. Last year, Damwon in the play-in stage, just you feel bad for the wildcard teams to go against a Korean squad like that, but they don't have to this year.
Yeah, it certainly is, of course, on more so the wildcard team side. Unfortunate if that's what you draw into, but from the fan perspective, from the viewer perspective, always seeing one of these juggernauts like an LCK team, one of these ones head into the play-ins and just clearly flex and demonstrate what a major region team should be looking like as far as some of the times and how much they can flex on these teams is sometimes a nice, fun little exhibition to watch. But yeah, they get the easy bounce out. And again, one of those situations where I know that maybe in the last 2-3 years, you can make the argument that North America and the LCK's results are relatively similar at Worlds. But other than that, if you take all the history in, of course, the LCK is going to get the nod ahead of the LCS.
And so last year and previous years in play-ins, you had the pool 1 seeds. It was Korea, China, Europe, and North America, whichever seed was there. And you're just, okay, they're the pool 1s. They're not going to be in the same group. They're the huge favorites to get out of that group. That's fine. But now with 2 groups, you have 4 pool 1 seeds. You're throwing in the LMS there, or PCS now. So you could have the PCS pool 1 and the LCS pool 1 in one group, and then you have China and Europe in the other group, and it could be a little bit interesting. You would still fully expect EU and the LPL to get out, but one of them's going to have to play a best of 5.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you're shaping up with this play-ins and the way it's drawn out. You're going to have one of these conflicts, and that's what seems to be the exciting prospect of looking at this part of Worlds and the way that they've now retooled it with the VCS out, is saying that, yeah, you're going to have one of these conflicts, and it's going to have to happen as early as the play-in stage. So you can't be sleeping on Worlds at all early this year. We're going to be right from the get-go one of your favorites, one of the teams you're rooting for. It doesn't matter what region you're in, doesn't matter how big the region it is. The stakes are going to be high right from the get-go for Worlds.
And remember, there are some decent teams that are going to be in the play-in stage. Remember last year how much Clutch struggled to even get out of play-ins? They finished 2-2. They needed a tiebreaker. And then Splice went to 5 games, and that was all against Unicorns of Love, who are clearly pretty much consensus the best-looking team, not from a major region coming into this event. But I think a lot of teams and players are talking about them, that they have a legit chance to win some games against maybe even some of the top squads.
Hey man, people have always slept on some of these squads in this type of event and the play-ins. And when you're looking at these teams, and again, especially recently and the changes in the game itself and the way it goes, absolutely these wildcard region teams can shock the world, can shock these teams and take their game and take their approach to League of Legends and smack you in the face with it hard enough that they can come away with taking away your Nexus. And that is exactly what a squad, like you said, like the Unicorns of Love, have shown this year, that they're up to that level of skill once again, and they're hungry, looking to get the opposite result this time at the play-in stage that they suffered last year.
I'm just saying, there could be some bounties out there for an LPL, LGD to kind of, oops, we finished 2nd. Oops, that means NA finished 3rd. Oops, we have to match up in a best of 5 and take down the LCS.
Hey, look at this year now. Everything has gone with COVID, having to play online. anything unpredictable can happen, and that's exactly what usually happens during the play-in stage. So I'm promising you, one of these established teams, one of these favorites, you better keep your eyes at the back of your head because these play-in teams are gunning for these wins.
And again, it sucks big time that we're not going to see the VCS, one of the most exciting regions. You feel bad for the teams that put in so much effort throughout the entire year to qualify for this event. But I think this might actually make for a more exciting play-ins because you get to see more teams play against each other. Usually it's just 3 squads, it's that short round robin. Now you have 4 other teams that are going to be in the group to play against, which just shows more diversity, and we'll see when the best of 5s roll around. But it's going to be a fun time, even if there are 2 less teams coming to this World Championship. Now, off air a little while ago, I posed a question to Mark, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper in it today because Cloud9, obviously, an incredibly disappointing end to what was such a dominant spring. So we're comparing and looking back. What is the more disappointing end to a year, Mark? Is it the 2016 Immortals or this current iteration of Cloud9 in 2020? Because both of them did not go to Worlds after absolutely dominating within North America.
And every time I hear 2016 and then followed by those three letters of IMT,
wince.
You shiver and you're just, the pain. You're reminded of that pain because it didn't matter whether you actually liked Immortals or not. If you cared about the LCS, you cared about North America as a region. You wanted to see this team succeed. The way that they played, who was on the roster, this was big time news in North America, and it would have been a big deal if they had been able to go to Worlds and shake up the scene and make some noise. They were not able to get that far, and we can talk about that and the disappointment that led there. But I know that the Cloud9 one is very disappointing and very recent, but man, I'm leaning towards this 2016 IMT, and that is just how disappointing it was.
Yeah, let's go through why it was disappointing for them, because you're right. They had all these fan favorites, Huni and Reignover, come over after their undefeated split with Fnatic, and
that's important to remember, right? It's not just Reignover and Huni; it's the form that they were in when they're coming over, and
top 4 at Worlds,
the way that they played, and what they were to the community. This is a big deal.
Immortals played like an LPL team in the LCS, which you never see. It's always snooze fest resident sleepers in the LCS, but Immortals in spring and summer combined regular season 33-3. 33-3 across the whole thing. Pretty disgusting record. The problem is their playoff record 9-11.
No.
Sub 500 after smurfing. It started in the spring split when they went 17-1. They were the full all-pro team, or 4/5 of it at the very least. Reignover gets MVP. They were huge favorites as that first seed against the 6th seed TSM, who were struggling all regular season. They finished 9-9. This was Yellow Star on the roster, and they proceed to get 3-0 in the semifinals, and that's when Huni's busting out Lucian, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, the infamous Lucian top coming out, and it looked just about as well as if, let me just say, you load up the client, get into a solo queue game, and just randomly say, top laner, please play Lucian. I don't care what rank you're in. I'm betting that you're going to get a pretty similar performance to what we saw. And I tell you what, that's not the level of play that you should be expecting from someone like Huni, let alone the level of play that we had been seeing from Immortals during that summer, during that year, throughout the entirety of it. Man, I'm having a hard time just even talking when I think back of it, because I just think of how disappointing it was, all the excitement that you had initially at the success and how they played. And then again, just that train wreck in that playoff series against TSM. And unfortunately, that train wreck against TSM in the playoff series, that was all you saw from Immortals 2016 in any type of high pressure situation.
But people were already talking about after the regular season, this is it for NA. This is the team we want to send to Worlds. They're crazy. They're fast-paced. They're fighting whenever they can. In spring, before playoffs, people were already talking about that. So they bounce back from the debacle that was against TSM. They go 16-2 the next regular season. This is when best of threes are introduced. But TSM is the more dominant team still. They bounce back. That's the best split that they've ever had. Playoffs roll around, and again, it's not even a finals berth for Immortals. They go to 5 games against Cloud9. They lose, end up going to the Gauntlet, and they lose to Cloud9 again 3-1, and they're not going to Worlds. So for Immortals, it's a full year of disappointment. At least Cloud9 captured the title in the spring split.
Yeah, I mean, how much is that title really all worth? But I mean, yes.
It's in the history books.
Yes, history books. There's some value, and of course, whenever they get playing in the studio again, we'll put up another banner. But it's coming up pretty empty as far as value goes right now when you're looking at the year. And coming up empty is exactly what happened still with Immortals. At the entirety of that year, you said it, the big runs that they had, the records that they had throughout the regular split in the spring and summer split side, and still not able to get it done and not get these series wins. And again, the big disappointment to me, back-to-back series losses against Cloud9, not being able to get ahead of Cloud9 in that first one, and then again in the Gauntlet, not getting around them. Really, that was the nail in the coffin as far as how you felt about this Immortals team and what you saw with this roster. And it's one of those runs where everything is happening. Everything is so great. And you look at how it ends for the year, and you're kind of like, you know what? You can't do this again next year. Even how great it was, and even all the things you reached, we just can't run it back because of how badly things ended.
The beauty between both of these teams is we never got to see either internationally to compare. Like, they neither went to MSI. Cloud9 should have. It was out of their control because of COVID, so we should have seen them on the international stage. But the level of dominance they had within North America, Immortals, throughout all of 2016, had the second highest gold differential per minute in the world. We're including wildcard regions. That's how hard they were dominating in the regular season. And for Cloud9, they had the highest KDA of all the teams in the world in 2020 spring. So they were dominating at international levels. We just never got to see them.
Yeah, man, we were talking about, the Immortals record 33-3. Cloud9 was even better. They had more wins, less losses type of situation at one point.
35-2, halfway through summer.
And it's doesn't matter whatsoever because it still ends up with no Worlds ticket for Cloud9, and there was no Worlds ticket for 2016 Immortals. I'm siding with 2016 Immortals being still the worst, and unfortunately for Cloud9, with how high things had been this year, you got to slot Cloud9, right bumper to bumper, right behind this Immortals failure for the LCS as far as the historical failures of the region goes.
Yeah, I think I side slightly with Immortals 2 being worse or more disappointing because Cloud9, you had signs of it. You saw it towards the end of the regular season. And
I was in denial. I didn't want to believe it.
Didn't want to believe it because they'd been so good for a full split and a half. But you saw it start to teeter towards the end of the regular season, and it continued when they went up against good, decent competition in the playoffs. Immortals, it just seemed like it was fully mental boom as soon as best of fives rolled around because they were consistently dominant when it came to the regular season. But Cloud9, I mean, the numbers are a little skewed because they played so many more playoff games and they did dominate in spring. So they look better in playoffs, but how quickly it fell off at the end of summer is still incredibly disappointing.
And just a team and talent and the coaching staff around this organization. The disappointing thing as well is not being able to right the ship. That's the thing, as you said. The writing was on the wall as far as some of these performances and slip-ups were happening. But as we said, 2 months. 2 months. There was 2 months to recognize some of these things, fix them, patch them, whatever you had to do to even get across the finish line to make sure you got to Worlds. That should have been the number one goal. It wasn't. And unfortunately, as we see, no Worlds for Cloud9.
One best of five away on a couple of different occasions, just like Immortals was in 2016. See, the similarities don't even stop there. Now, Riot is pumping out new champions almost every 2 weeks, it feels like. I'm not even accustomed to knowing a new champion, and then they're releasing another one. So the latest is the Desert Rose. We got Samira coming out. They released her abilities recently, and as is tradition with new champions recently, you watch their abilities, see some gameplay, and you're like, okay, so she's a jungle assassin marksman? She can go in 4 lanes.
multiple different roles, different lanes. Yeah, this is another one of those champions coming through from Riot that I start feeling like a boomer, man, because I'm looking at them and I'm looking at these overloaded kits and I'm looking how they do things and I'm starting to look back at the old champions and read the explanations of their abilities, and it ain't the same, man. We're talking about a novel compared to a sentence, not even a paragraph.
Yeah, I love looking at some of Teemo's abilities where it's like move quick. Teemo moves faster. Oh, I see. Very complicated.
Oh,
But listen, Samira, if you look at her kit backwards, you go Alt EWQ, you're like, okay, it's not that complicated. It's actually relatively simple compared to recent champions. And then you get to the passive and you're like, oh, I'm going full combo breaker. This is Soul Calibur all of a sudden, trying to stack up your grades. It's a fighting game. That is the complicated part of this champion. And obviously having a moving wind wall seems pretty imbalanced as well. I mean, but hey, she looks fun and she looks like she'll be incredibly fun to watch competitively, which is all Riot really cares about right now.
absolutely looks like a fun champion to be the one playing, as long as you.
Oh yeah, terrible
You know
to
what?
play
I'm
against.
gonna pause because I'm gonna say even Aphelios was fun to play on release without understanding him in any type of sense. So that I'll leave that.
You
one
didn't understand how
her.
you were killing people. Okay.
Yeah, I'll leave understanding her passive and everything outside of it. Yeah, it still looks a lot of fun. But when you're looking at that passive and you start talking about those fighting games, this isn't, Super Smash Bros. With your bros on a Saturday night where you can just mash the face buttons and maybe you're going to do enough damage to knock the guy off. We're talking about like high quality, Street Fighter, making sure you got the exact combos down to take your guy down. That's what we're looking at as far as this passive, to build it up, get the style points to make this champion work. And on the receiving end, it looks like it's not going to be a lot of fun playing against someone who knows what they're doing with this champion.
And it feels like Riot wants her to be a marksman, but I don't see her being played there. When you have melee as such a big part of your kit, I feel like this is solo lane or jungle written all over it.
Well, especially with, the way her kit is built, and then to have, I think it's a 500 auto attack range, that absolutely is going to be it. Because if you're going into trade, a 500 auto attack range, you better be making sure that you're the one coming out on top of that trade.
Yeah, it should be fun going up against Ashe and Caitlyn, which are super meta now with 650 and 600 range respectively.
Yikes.
That's a fun matchup to get into. Obviously, I assume she'll be very strong / immediately into competitive once she's actually going to be playable. Obviously, she's not going to be around for Worlds or anything like that, so we'll have to be waiting a long time to actually see her. But she looks fun, and her taunt, this is the big game changer, does 1 damage and costs 1 gold, so you could execute some people with Elder Dragon buff, Mark. That's important.
Yeah, that's always what it's about. Hey, you got to add a little bit of extra BM into the champions. Look, we had Zoe come through, and Zoe's an abomination in her own right, and then you got Aphelios, and you got 200 years. Now we got Samira coming through, and you got this type of ability coming through. You can taunt people in the grave. I like it.
We had emotes coming to pro play. Now we have the taunting being brought in. It's just the evolution of the game, and I'm all for it. That's it today, though, for League Unlocked. Mark and Eric here with you guys. As always, thanks for hanging out, chilling, relaxing, and we'll catch you guys on the flippity flop.